Hello again and welcome to Mordian Mondays, episode number 7. For those of you that are new to this series of videos, this is where I document my progress on the Great Mordian Restoration Project, which is my endeavour to completely repaint my pure infantry Mordian army. I say pure infantry, though I do have 30 vehicles as well, but the focus of my Mordian 50th Rifles has always been pure infantry tactics. There's about 400 infantry models that I have in total, and I run regularly a 250-man army. But they've been campaigning. They've been with me for 15, 16 years, and they got into a bit of a sorry state. They were painted very badly. I used to rush them. I didn't used to paint my models very well. So I decided to give the poster child army of my channel a complete makeover, and I talk about my progress on that journey, and I share it with you. And at the same time, it's great opportunity for everyone to sort of discuss their hobby progress. And I've had a lot of people which have been saying they've been sort of using my painting progress as inspiration and motivation for their own painting progress. So we talk about that, talk about some of the hobbying aspects, and it's a bit of a free-form idea zone. General tactics, general ideas, concepts I've had, general channel updates, all that kind of stuff, hobby progress. It's very similar to what what Black Temper Fridays is, except for this is every Monday without fail, whereas Black Temper Friday is very, very ad hoc. I do it every so often. So, without further ado, big preamble over. What's been going on in the world of Mordian Glory, especially hobby-wise? Well, as you can see, we have returned to schedule. We are on painting a squad a week again. That's why I can relatively easily, which is a little bit of time, every single night I can get a squad done. There was a little bit of delay, obviously, on the previous week because I had tournament practice and I was just painting my Gene Stealer cult. But now we are back. We are back in the saddle. Actually, it wasn't last week. It was the week before last. So we're back at full capacity. Last week I churned out a full squad. This week I've churned out a full squad. Now, for next week's episode, I actually have a squad that is in the Dettol bath at the moment, having the paint stripped off them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint my 3 characters next week. Definitely going to paint 3 characters. So I've got a Minotaur and Priest. I have a Lieutenant, Junior Officer, Platoon Commander with Power Fist and Las Pistol. And I have a Lord Commissar with Plasma Pistol and Power Fist. And that's the Anvil Industry one. But we'll talk about those in a moment. So what squad did I paint this week? Well, I painted another infantry squad. This was a fire support one. So that's where I give it a heavy weapon and a special weapon. Went for the old missile launcher, grenade launcher. I'm a big fan of this combo for a couple of reasons. Firstly, from the fluff point of view. I find it a little unbelievable as an old school player that everyone would really be running around with plasma guns in the Imperial Guard. I mean, I know on the tabletop plasma guns are amazing, but realistically, they're very, very rare bits of kit that very few regiments have access to, and those regiments that do have access to them are, they're very lucky. I mean, for example, if you look at Gaunt's Ghost, for example, they didn't have any plasma guns whatsoever, and the only person in the sort of Gaunt's Ghost which has a plasma weapon, I believe, is it Commissar Holt? I've not read the books in a while, but he has a plasma pistol, and the first time they all see him shoot it, they're like, "Holy fuck, this is a big deal. This guy's not messing around," because they're getting attacked by some like giant beast or something, and he just pulls his plasma pistol out and just blows it away in like one go, and they're all a bit like, "Ooh, flipping heck." So yeah. So because of that, I often find it's quite realistic for guard regiments to be armed with things like grenade launchers, flamers, missile launchers, because even las cannons are pretty hefty bits of kit. Las cannon, I mean, I know they are part of Las weaponry, but they are still some of the best anti-tank that the Imperium has to offer. And realistically, the most common sort of heavy weapon you would see in an Imperial, anti-tank heavy weapon you would see in a Imperial Guard force would be the missile launcher. That is the realistic option. It's low tech, it's easy to produce, it's got wide variety of rounds. You would see that would be the primary anti-tank weapon for most regiments. I mean, it's just like a missile. It's just like a modern day missile launcher. And likewise, the most common special weapon a lot of guard regiments use is a grenade launcher or sniper rifle or flamer. It's very rare for people to have melter guns and plasma guns. Heavy weapon wise in general, you tend to find that a lot of guard units are armed with either missile launchers or heavy bolters. Autocannons to a certain extent, but still most, or even not even like heavy bolters. We've gone off a bit on a topic, but I like the low tech. I like my realistic weapons, and missile launcher is one of those, and so is the grenade launcher. So I like this combo. And on the tabletop, the missile launcher, grenade launcher have always gone, fluff aside on the tabletop. The missile launcher and grenade launcher have always gone hand in hand. Like the grenade launcher and autocannon. For many editions, you've always been able to have a grenade launcher, missile launcher combo. Because back in the days of blast templates, it was nice to have a unit that could sling out 2 blast templates, for example, or sling out 2, decent, not great, but decent anti-tank weapons. And that's true in 8th edition. 8th edition, missile launchers are a cheap anti-tank option now. They're 5 points cheaper than a las cannon. And yeah, you pay for that. You get one less strength, one less AP. But it is a way to save points, and a grenade launcher is 3 points now. So, for a take all comers unit that is truly take all comers, it's got anti-tank, it's got anti-infantry. You're only looking at 58 points. That's a pretty good deal. So that's why, fluff-wise, I like to take missile launcher, grenade launchers. That's why, tabletop-wise. Real-world-wise, it sounds a bit weird, but for those of you that don't know, like the metal Mordian missile launchers are actually really rare. Really, really rare. I'm very fortunate that I have 3 of them. They're described as like being hen's teeth to find. The Mordian las cannon teams, they made thousands of them. They weren't particularly rare, but Mordian missile launchers are pretty rare. So it's quite good to be able to use those things and field them, because for me it's a moment of pride that I have. I have these cool rare models. I love using rare models. I know a lot of people would like just collect them and stick them behind boxes or glass or whatever, but I like to use my rare models, which is why my Mordians are in such a bad state, which is why they're getting repainted. So yeah, that's it basically. Good old grenade launcher, missile launcher squad. Churn these guys out relatively relaxed in a week. The next unit, like I said, is going to be characters. So that's it on the hobby side of things. With this squad completed, I'm now 1 squad, which is just an infantry squad with a grenade launcher, and 3 characters away from completing my first bolter and chainsword painting competition. Not really competition, but painting event, vow. So what I've done is I signed up about a month ago on the bolter and chainsword. So they call it the ETL painting event, and you make a vow like, I will paint this amount of models. You list it by the 1st of September, or I fail. And if you fail, you on your signature. It's like on any form. On your signature, you have to wear the mark of the Oathbreaker. But if you complete it, then the points of your model. So in this case, if I've done a platoon of infantry, which is about 400 points. that goes towards your team's, your faction's score, and then whoever's got the most points at the end wins. Now, often on Bolt Training Sword, it's between Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines. They're the two largest factions by a long way. But they also have what's called Imperial Forces, which is, and is Adeptus Mechanicus, it's Imperial Guard, it's Sister Battle, it's Grey Knights, it's Death Watch, blah blah blah, it's all that shit, and that they're in their own sort of sub mini competition, and obviously we're also competing against Xenos and Renegades and Heretics and stuff like that. So it's actually, whilst we're not competing up with the big boys up there, our faction, Imperial Guard, are actually we are in our own little league at the moment, and it's fierce competition between the Imperial Guard and the Adeptus Mechanicus, two very similar sized forums. But I've almost completed my first vow, which means when that's done, I can vow a second time. And so maybe for my second vow, I'll do it's been great motivation for me to keep my painting up. So maybe for my second vow, I'll do some another platoon of infantry, or maybe some specialists, or maybe even something just completely off piece and go like a Baneblade. Just go completely off piece. It'd still be cool though. That's everything painting wise on my end. So please guys, if you've got any painting updates or anything, please post it down in the comment section below, because we can all, it's great motivation for me to hear you guys are being motivated by my painting, and it's like a self-sustaining cycle. Now, there is something I do want to talk about. I'm going to touch upon this in another video, which is coming up later this week. I've already recorded it. Chaos Knights. Okay, so now we're getting to the tactics section, guys. So Chaos Knights are on the horizon, and they look cheesy as fuck. Pardon my language. They look very, very powerful. For those of you that aren't aware, Chaos Knight Codex will be dropping. It's gone on pre-order this weekend. That's just gone. It'll be hitting the battlefields next weekend, which is the 12th, 14th, 13th. 13th, 14th, hitting 13th. And all I can say, guys, is it's clear evidence of power creep. I am in many competitive chats and already, Facebook chats, and already we've got a lot of people saying who use Imperial Knights in that chat that they're going to use their Imperial Knights as Chaos Knights the moment that Codex drops. There's just basically they have all the abilities of Imperial Knights and then some more. But there's some truly ridiculous things in there. For example, this is not a stratagem. If this was a stratagem, it would be balanced. It's not a stratagem though, and it's not once per game. They can do it every turn. They have ability, which is, I think it's called like Demonic Surge. Now, I could be getting the name wrong, but I know what the effects are. It's a random table. It's a D3 table. And what you do is you pay one mortal wound each turn, and your knight can get a random buff. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, it's random. It's a variable table. But if you pay D3 wounds, D3 mortal wounds, then you get to pick the buff. And there is no reason why any Chaos Knight player wouldn't do this for every single knight turn 1. Because one of the buffs, if you go first, one of the buffs is give one of your ranged weapons an extra strength, extra damage. And we're looking at Avenger Gatling Cannons there, guys. People are going to be taking strength 7, AP -2, 3 damage Avenger Gatling Cannons, which means it only takes 4 Avenger Gatling Cannon shots to kill a Leman Russ, which is actually, considering those things shoot, 12 shots, actually means that those those Chaos Knights can reliably kill a Leman Russ each a turn. Because let me hit you with some knowledge, right? Because Chaos Knights differ in one very key respect to Imperial Knights, which is they can take 2 of the same ranged weapon. They can take 2 Gatling cannons. Now, 2 Avenger Gatling cannons. Now, a regular Avenger Gatling cannon will shoot 12 times and it will hit 8 times. It will then wound, being generous to the Leman Russ that it's shooting at, which is not its preferred target. It will wound 3 times, it's AP -2, the Russ will stop 1 and it will take 4 damage. So that's okay, that's doable, we can take that. But what happens when you fire another Avenger Gatling cannon at this thing, at your Russ, and it's damage 3? Well, suddenly that's 10 damage going through. 10 damage just done on a knight which is not anti-armor, shooting at one of the toughest mainline battle tanks in 40k. The Leman Russ is the toughest mainline battle tank. There's no doubt. For point for point, it has been math hammered. Point for point, there is nothing tougher than a Leman Russ when it comes to comparing factions' main tanks to each other. Hammerheads, Predators, Leman Russes, stuff like that. And now we've got a knight out there, which when you combine that with the fact that it also gets the carapace weapons, which can fire some missiles at you. Basically, statistically, one of those Chaos Knights will now reliably, with an anti-infantry loadout, also be able to kill a main tank. So it's not an anti-infantry loadout anymore, is it? It's an anti-everything loadout. It is kind of ridiculous. Yeah, and they can take 3 of these things, possibly 4. They can definitely take 3 because Chaos, because it's not a stratagem either. Well, guess what? They don't really have they could take a disloyal 32 with Renegades and Heretics. They can't take a Rusty 17 because they can't get Admech or Dark Mechanicus, I don't believe. But still, that's bad. But you might say, well, what if you go first? Well, if you go first, I believe that they Demonic Surge at the beginning of the battle round. So before anyone's gone. And they can Demonic Surge and spend D3 wounds and pick Toughness 9. Toughness 9 knights are ridiculous. Ridiculous. And this is just really... trying not to swear. This has very much angered me. Much anger is coursing through me at the moment. Because I try not to get pissed off about this. But we're just looking at power creep. And maybe I'm crying the sky is falling. Maybe I am. Oh, there goes Mordian Glory again, bitching and moaning. And, and I get it, we're in the guard. Whatever challenges come, we will face them and we will destroy them. That I totally get. But the general concept is just ridiculous. All I can say, guys, is how quaint does it look now that you can get, that at the beginning of 8th edition, you could take conscripts and you could make them semi-fearless. Oh my God. Jesus. Please stop. No, have mercy. It's so bullshit now. Some of our best advantages get nerfed into the ground, and then every single week, that's an exaggeration, every single month a new faction comes out which is better than the last one. It's annoying. It's just annoying. And then I wouldn't mind too much, but and I'm going to stop bitching and moaning. I'm going to I'm going to try and bring it down to a rational level. I wouldn't mind so much if that kind of power would be awesome to see in an Apocalypse game, right? And Chaos Knights are being released at the same time as Apocalypse, which is really cool. But the problem is that, and I know you all get what a lot of people are going to say, which is, well, Super Heavies have been around for such a long time on Glory, just get used to it. It's yeah, okay, true. But adding Super Heavies into regular 40k just changes the game so much. It really does. And the beginning of 8th edition, I had hope. Because at the beginning of 8th edition, super heavies were balanced. If you spammed them, you suffered for it. At the beginning of 8th edition, Imperial Knights weren't that good. They were perfectly okay. They were perfectly okay, but their weaknesses shined through. You could only really afford 3 of them. You couldn't really... Think about that. You could only afford 3 Imperial Knights. That's all you could afford. Not 4 and a Rusty 17. You could afford 3 Imperial Knights. People can take 5 Knight lists, you know. 3 close combat ones, 2 shooty ones. Beginning of 8th edition, you could only afford 3, no matter how you worked it out. 3 Knights. And that was reasonable, because you can actually deal with 3 Knights. Most armies, where, you know, it's a close fight when even if you're not prepared for it when you're taking on 3 super heavies. But maybe you can do it, maybe you can't. But at least you got a friggin' chance. Now 4 Knights is just too much to deal with, and a lot of the armies that could deal with them, like Guard, have had toys taken away from them. Really, we're not there yet. We're not. But we are getting closer and closer to 7th edition levels of bullshit. Closer and closer. You know, the factions that don't have access to specialist attachments are, you know, not as good. Those factions which do have access to special attachments gives them inherent advantages, strong ones. Not game breaking, but they're there. And there are certain factions which just by and away just far exceed those of those that came before. Chaos Knights and Imperial Knights is just a very good example. I'm not saying it's as bad as it was in 7th edition, but we're slowly, one step at a time, ending up there. And Toughness 9 Knights. I mean, Toughness 9 guys. You know, we've already had this conversation about battle cannons only wounding them on 4s, and that's pretty tough to deal with. Now your battle cannons are wounding them on 5s. I mean, they're just, it's just annoying. Las cannons only wounding them on 4s. God. They're already tough enough to deal with. Anyway, so guys, be prepared for Chaos Knights. Be prepared. Be very prepared for them. They're tough. They're better than Imperial Knights, and they can get back up on a 4+. By the way, just like Imperial Knights. Don't think that's any different. No, they still get back up. There is two very important rays of hope, though, which is that Guard. And I've been talking very generally about why Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights are bullshit, and why Imperial Knights are bullshit. But fortunately, Guard do have a way of dealing with these things, and we've got 2 ways actually. It's the Relic of Lost Cadia, which will be really bad news for Chaos Knights. And also we have the Stratagem Vengeance for Cadia, which will again be really bad news for Chaos Knights. Really bad news, because both of those abilities allow us to get all reroll hits and reroll wounds against Chaos units. So fortunately, fortunately, with Chaos being in the ascendance at the moment, so I've had a positive hobby moment. We've had a bit of a negative Nancy moaning bullshit Chaos Knight moment, but fine, fair enough. Now we come through the other side and we look at how we beat these things. Well, fortunately, we have tools at our disposal for dealing with these things. Okay, if we go first, we will just destroy a Chaos Knight army. We've got access to Earthshaker cannons. What's very interesting is with the advent of potentially Toughness 9 Chaos Knights, the Manticore is starting to look like a really good weapon option. That's Strength 10. Great. The AP -2. Who gives a shit? Those things are going to be on a 4+ Invuln save, almost guaranteed. So the Manticores are actually looking like a very tasty piece of kit. Think about a Catachan Manticore with Vengeance for Cadia on it. That's going to start getting real painful for the opponent real quick. I also think, and I've got a video dedicated to this, I also think that the best way for us to counter Chaos Knights is with our especially considering these things have got dual Gatling cannons, so going pure infantry is going to be a bit, on the risky side, killing them, facing them. I think what could be very powerful is if we bring our own super heavies to deal with them. Our own super heavies with Vengeance for Cadia, which you don't need to be Cadian Regiment to use, by the way. Everyone wants to get Vengeance for Cadia in the Guard. So, there we go, guys. There is the Emperor fortunately has given us tools to deal with these things. It's just what is very frustrating, and this is the last thing I want to end on. Okay, because I've been talking to Johnny about knights in general. Don't forget, Johnny has knights. I should say, big news. I've said the way we fight knights with our own super heavies. I've bought my third Baneblade. Good news, everyone! I bought my third Baneblade, so I can now run a triple Baneblade detachment. Huzzah! Which I've been meaning to do for a long time. I don't want to sound crazy, but I have plans for a competitive 4 Baneblade list. And when I mean Baneblade, I mean anything with a Baneblade chassis. 4 Imperial Guard Super Heavy list with a Loyal 32. If anything that those Imperial Knights can do, Guard can do better. I solemnly believe that. God damn it, I don't need an in-run save. I've got 26 wounds. Come at me, bro. So, and I get lots of rerolls, which Knights don't get. And I have better fire, more shots than a Knight. So, actually, come at me, bro. But what was I going to say? What frustrates me about Super Heavies, I spoke to Johnny about this because he's got Knights, is that they are the gatekeepers of competitive play. You can have a really strong, any competitive list has to be able to kill 1 Knight a turn without fail. You have to have the fire output to, even if you go second, you can kill a Knight, which completely changes the dynamic of the game. It really, really does. They're very tough to fight. They're very, very tough to fight. But there we go. And you see them. Pardon me, I'm yawning a lot. But you see them all the time. That's another slightly frustrating thing. When you're facing, when you go to tournament, you're like, well, how many Knight lists am I going to face today? And it's always 2. Out of a 5-game tournament, it's always 2. So there you go. That's what's the, be aware of Chaos Knights. That's the frustrations behind them. They're very tough. There is codex creep, but we have tools to deal with them. Great. I've bought my own Super Heavy because I am going to fight Super Heavies with Super Heavies. Tactics be damned. Also, I think it'd be so cool to have 4 Baneblades on a battle report. That would be insane. Last but not least, speaking of tournaments, I will be going to Caledonian Revolution 2019 this month. I don't know if anyone else who watches videos is going, but if you are, I will be wearing my Mordian Glory t-shirt, so come and say hi. It's a very competitive tournament. It's ETC, it's singles, it's 2 days, it's 5 games, it's on like it's King Kong. There's no messing about. There's no mucking about with Cali. So I'm going to the Caledonian Revolution. It's going to be hardcore. I expect it's going to be my first singles hardcore tournament in a while. I expect I'm going to take a beating, but I'm not going there with a must-win tournament attitude. I'm going there again to keep my finger on the meta. And let's see, they're letting Chaos Knights there, so let's see if they're a big deal. But I'm going there to keep my finger on the meta, on the pulse, and to keep my eye in, my tactics sharp, and to see if to make sure that I'm keeping you guys up to date with the latest cheese that is on the battlefield and how you can beat it. So expect it's on the 20th. It's on the 20th. Let me just double check. It's on the 20th and 21st. So expect a tournament review roundup on the 22nd, around 22nd, 23rd. It's important you guys watch those tournament reviews because it's where I go over, what was the bullshit list that I saw today, kind of thing. It helps you keep your guys' eye on the meta. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please put lots of comments. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're painting. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.